welcome. We're back with another interview. Today, we're speaking to Bill Meyring. Bill has over 15 years' experience in the field of fire protection engineering, and today we'll get to know him better. So, Bill, welcome.
Thank you.
We would like to ask you, how did you start your career in fire protection engineering?
Well, fire protection is interesting because you can start just in fire protection, but I started actually as a mechanical engineer, as a consultant doing problem solving, but had an interest in architecture and looked towards buildings and that sort of thing. And fire protection was something I moved into about 8 years into my career. So I started mechanical and then went and got my master's in fire protection. And yeah, I haven't looked back since. It's been great.
And how does your role make a difference?
Well, fire protection is interesting because it pulls in a lot of different disciplines. Um, you're looking at the chemistry of fire, the physics of fire, structural engineering, and then the psychology of people at the same time. And I just really like that aspect of it where it pulls in a bunch of different disciplines. Where it makes a difference is helping people to understand what the true hazards are and how to make a safer built environment.
So, Bill, I know you're an expert in the field of battery storage, and I want to ask you about this in a bit of detail. Um, what attracted you to this domain, battery storage?
What attracted me is that it's a tough problem to solve. It's different than wood or flammable liquids, things like that, that we know how those things burn. Everybody has seen the fire triangle or the tetrahedron, but lithium ion batteries have their own oxygen built within the structure itself, as well as fuel. And then on top of all of that, they have stored electrical energy. So they really have everything they need um, to become a fire hazard if conditions went sideways. So it was an interesting problem to solve because you can't use traditional extinguishing methods to fix that problem. So a lot of it is preventative. How do we put safety systems in place to prevent the conditions that cause thermal runaway in lithium ion batteries? And then beyond that, you look at a worst case situation. What will happen? What is the worst case that can happen if that were to ignite and go into thermal runaway? And then how do you prevent that from becoming a more severe um, event? So those are the challenges that really attracted me to lithium-ion battery storage and energy storage in general. It's a tough problem to solve. The codes, the building codes and the fire codes that govern that are developing alongside the technology, and they're both moving very quickly over the last 5 to 10 years. So it's really a challenging aspect of fire protection, and it's very interesting to me.
Well, this is definitely a subject we have not had the chance to discuss yet, and there is always a good time to learn, and that is why we are here today. Well, Bill, you have a fulfilling career, and I am sure that will be many more surprises, but also challenges. And I'd like to ask you, what career accomplishment are you most proud of?
Hmm. That is a really good question. And, I would say the one thing that I'm most proud of is not the technical problem solving or the fire protection strategies that you develop along the way, but the ability to spread that knowledge and to present that to others, mentor fire protection engineers, and educate people in the industry to really understand the hazards better. So I'd say that the accomplishment that I'm most proud of is my ability to work with people and help bring them up in terms of an understanding of what the true hazards are and what solutions make the most sense for a given scenario.
Um, I think it's fair to conclude, as Miruna said, that you have a really successful career in fire, and I believe you're the one to ask what steps to follow to progress in your career. So, in your experience, what knowledge and skills do you need to get to the next stage of your career?
Well, it all depends where you're coming from. And I would say it depends on what point in your career you are. So if you're a fire protection engineer just getting into this, I would say the most important thing is to pursue a professional engineering registration. That opens up a lot of doors for you. If you don't have that, it's always something that you can get later on with a certain number of years of experience. But in terms of education, there are a lot of different opportunities to take seminars and classes and special hazards and other aspects of fire protection engineering that you'd be interested in. For me, I would say it's mostly just pursuing the work that interests me and that drives me. And for me, that's being involved in these battery energy storage projects. There's not a lot of education or degrees that are specializing in that as of yet. Um, so mostly it's just basically being involved, getting in the field, doing the analysis. Um, but I would say for anybody who is mid-career or early career, just pursue the stuff that interests you. I mean, if you don't like being stuck behind a desk, look for something where you're out there and you're solving problems in the field. Or if you're in the field and you just want to take a rest and get behind a desk and do some design work, or you're really good at fire modeling, there are always certification programs and education that you can pursue for that stuff. But I'd say, from my perspective, the most important thing has always been to do the stuff that really interests you, and to get more training in that area. I have early on in my career pursued some training in things that were not interesting to me because I thought that they would be helpful in my career. The problem with that strategy is that it's not really stuff that you want to do in the long run. So, it's one of those things where even if something looks good on your resume, if that's not something that you want to pursue in the long run, just do what you love and seek out people who do the same thing, and can be a mentor to you.
Well, I strongly believe that our listeners should keep in mind what you just told us because it's always good to know what to expect in terms of your career and what is the next stage, what you should do to get there. And my next question is somehow related to this idea. What is the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
Hmm. My most, excuse me, my most important lesson that I've learned would be that for any given meeting or room or site visit that you're on, never assume that you have all of the information. I have always been very pleasantly surprised that regardless of what group comes together to solve a problem or is working together, there's always somebody else who knows something that you don't know that brings a lot of value to solving that problem. So I would say the most important lesson I've learned is to be humble and to listen, because what you're going to find, especially in fire protection, people come from different backgrounds, different levels of experience, different areas. You're going to get a lot of valuable information just by being able to listen to people. They don't have to be engineers. They can be, in the field. They can be from the manufacturing sector. They can be professors. Everybody has something to contribute. But one of the joys that I found in fire protection is to be able to kind of take in all of that information and assimilate it and figure out what are the relevant, important things that are necessary for solving this problem. So really, it's a lot of information gathering and then just understanding that the solution might not come from you. It might not come from a handbook. It might come from an unexpected source. So I would say just my most important lesson has been, be humble and don't make any assumptions about what the solution is.
That's actually, you're right. And it's not even about the fire field, it's about all the fields to be humble and to, you know. be able to take advice. And because you've been in this field pretty much all your life, I think it's hard to imagine yourself doing anything else. But what job other than your own would you like to try?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know because I really like what I'm doing right now. I found my background is but started out in mechanical engineering and then I went into testing and development. So I ran fire tests, large scale fire tests and special agent clean agent testing, or I'm sorry, special hazard clean agent testing. And so a lot of my background is research and development and fire testing for when you don't have an equation that tells you what the answer is. You know, you have a unique hazard or unique um, solution that somebody wants to build and try out. You're going to have to test that if you can't show it, you know, that it would be successful otherwise. Um, so I don't know. I moved on from that and moved back into consulting, and I really enjoy the problem solving aspect of it. So I don't know. I think the next job that I would like to have would probably be something along the lines of combining those two things, you know, where you could look at um, developing testing solutions for problems that haven't been solved yet. For a lot of the traditional problems in fire protection, there are methods for coming up with a solution, equations, and modeling that can be done to demonstrate, you know, what you need to do. But I like the challenging stuff. So I would say, you know, if there were another job that I would be looking at, it would be more looking at bringing those two aspects together, you know, looking at unique problems. How are you going to solve those either from a research and design perspective? Um, yeah, I'm not sure that that's a really good answer. Maybe my next job should be fishing or something, or just traveling.
That's a job too, yeah.
Well, now that we're approaching the end, this is something we like to ask our guests almost every time. And I think I think you have your words on you, Bill. What advice would you give to an engineer at the beginning of their career?
I would say make sure that you open yourself up to new opportunities. Um, you know, there's no reason to get stuck in a rut if you're doing something that you don't like doing. Find somebody who's doing something that's interesting and try to work with them. So, you know, in a nutshell, do what you love and kind of keep pursuing that stuff. Fire protection is one of the widest engineering disciplines that I've seen and that I've worked in. Um, you can work in human psychology and chemistry and research and testing. You can do fire alarm design, sprinkler design. You can work in the field doing inspections. You can consult. Like there's so much depending on if you're a people person or if you're focused on research and you really like analyzing things. So my advice would be to open yourself up to, you know, all of the different opportunities that are out there that present themselves in fire protection and, you know, pursue those. And don't be afraid to change. I've changed what I've been doing, my focus in fire protection, probably 3 or 4 times over the last 15 years. And each time you're able to bring a little bit of what you've done before to the new job, and it always adds a little bit more substance, a little bit more ability to kind of think outside the box. So that's my advice to somebody who is an engineer just starting out in the career. Open yourself up to new opportunities and do what you really enjoy doing.
Don't be afraid to accept challenges.
Yes.
Do what you love, and you'll find joy in it. This
Yeah.
is what Bill wants to tell to our listeners, to the young generation. Thank you, Bill,
Thank you.
for today.
All right. Thank you so much.